Hello, welcome to Recapping with Delora
and Ashley.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Recapping Podcast.
Also, comment, rate, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. We're on all the things.
We would love to hear your ratings of the movies and shows we review.
Email us your audio file to recappingpodcast@gmail.com and we will play it during the show.
Or DM us on Instagram and we will post and read it on air.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you.
Delora, it's Halloween time, girl. How are you?
Hi, Ashley. That it is. It's a chill in the air. It's darker.
A chill in the air. At least they're in Ohio. Can't say the same for Florida, but
shout out to Four Seasons. Woo, woo, woo,
that's okay. I'm good with it. As long as I can hop a flight and catch it when I want to catch it, we Gucci over here. So, in celebration of Halloween, guys, we mentioned we're going to do a Halloween film. So, it's only right. Last year we did Hocus Pocus. It is only right we do the long-anticipated sequel, Hocus Pocus 2, released September 30th, 2022 on Disney+. Runtime, 1 hour and 48 minutes. Quick summary. A sequel to the 1993 Halloween classic, two young women accidentally bring back the Sanderson sisters to modern-day Salem and must figure out how to stop the child-hungry witches from wreaking havoc on the world. Cast: Bette Midler is back as Winifred Sanderson. Sarah Jessica Parker is back as Sarah Sanderson. Kathy Najimy is back as Mary Sanderson. Newcomers: Whitney Peak is Becca, who I am familiar with from the Gossip Girl reboot.
Yes, she's very beautiful.
Love her hair in particular. Live your best life with the gorgeous curls. Melissa Escobedo as Izzy, Lilia Buckingham as Cassie, Froy Gutierrez as Mike, Sam Richardson, my guy, as Gilbert. Not my guy from this particular portrayal, but my guy from other projects. Let me clarify that.
He was in a show on Comedy Central called Detroiters, and a young lady that I went to church with, who's now an actress in Hollywood. She was on that show, and it was a lot of fun.
I feel like I fell in love with him in Veep because he's just, I love like a more offbeat sense of humor. And that show was very offbeat and some dark comedy. So I really enjoyed that portrayal amongst others. Tony Hale, also from Veep, as Reverend and Mayor Trask. Hannah Waddingham as Mother Witch of Ted Lasso fame. Reviews: Rotten Tomatoes, 63% critic score, 51% audience score, and 75% of Google users gave this a thumbs up. Delora, what is your grade for Hocus Pocus 2?
Hocus Pocus, duh. So, I posted on my personal Insta stories, the fam sitting down. We made Muddy Buddies. We had hot chocolate. It was a moment, okay? Sitting down watching this film because the first film is so beloved.
Yes.
I fell asleep. I have fallen asleep on this movie a total of 5 times. The 6th time is the charm. And all those times my daughter watched it, it's been out since September 30th. You know what I mean? So it's like, put it on background. What I will say about this film is it was very uncomfortable watching it initially. However, when I watched it, twice for the podcast, I didn't completely hate it as much as I did the first time.
Okay.
And I don't know what it was, but I still will give this movie a C. Okay. I love the first movie so much. It's so near and dear to myself. And I feel like with this film, So the first film was camp, and they didn't, I don't know if they realized what they did was magic, but with the second one, they were so intentional with tapping into what made the first one special that
Exactly.
it cheapened it for me.
I agree. I agree. Well said. We're in the same ballpark. My grade is C plus, and it gets the plus sheerly for nostalgia. Similar thoughts, honestly, I had for Coming to America sequel, which we also recapped.
Yes.
This was a spoof of the original and therefore ultimately unnecessary. I feel like
Yes.
too much time has gone by. It was brought back for the love of the fandom and all of that. So when there's not, to me, a solid reason, a solid storyline, then just don't do it. You know what I mean? Just don't do it. Leave it alone.
I literally put in my notes, it felt and feels like an elevated Disney Channel original movie. Like, you know what I mean? It felt a little cheap. It
It
didn't
just
feel,
it just felt like it could have been a skit on a show versus an
yes.
entire film.
Yeah.
So, with all due respect and love to this cast, to the Sanderson sisters trio, to the love I'm sure that went into the making of this and the fandom that brought it back. The original is the original, and I'm just going to put this out of my mind in the future. So, but we're going to recap for today, guys, and we're going to bring joy into your hearts
We're
as
going
we
to have a
talk about
wonderful
this.
conversation like we always do.
Absolutely.
Before we get into the spoiler alert, I was talking to my girlfriend, Aaliyah. I was like, Ashley and I really, really try to do movies that we enjoy, but we've had some really great conversations on movies we did not enjoy.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking about Bad Hair.
Yep.
Like, Bad Hair, the concept was genius. The execution wasn't there. And as being Black women and hair being such a pivotal part of our identity, we had a fantastic conversation about it.
And the thing is every project is worthy of a conversation just in and of itself for the most part. Granted,
Yes.
there are going to be the ones that for me just completely don't appeal to anything remotely in me or that I hated, a la Malcolm and Marie, that I just could not find a single kind word to say about besides Zendaya.
That
And
unseasoned macaroni and cheese.
Girl. But this, again, we both love the original. It harkens back to our childhood. Definitely feel like the sequel is worth a conversation. And I did have moments of joy. I did have moments of pleasure throughout it. So, spoiler alert, guys, as we get into the good of Hocus Pocus 2. So we start the film with a flashback to Salem, Massachusetts in 1653. This may look familiar to the original because we started the original with a flashback to Salem back in the day as well.
Yes.
The Sanderson sisters are young ladies. The town reverend is trying to force Winifred to marry against her will on her 16th birthday. Winifred refuses. They attempt to banish her from town. The sisters run into a witch in the woods singing a very familiar song.
That's my song.
Sarah uses it, as we know, to lure children. So, gives you some of the background of how Sarah got her gift. Instead of eating them, though, as the witch had intended, she notes they are different and powerful. She gives them that infamous spell book, but warns against one spell in particular, Magica Maxima, that makes a witch all-powerful, but dooms them. They set the Reverend's house on fire as their first spell. Okay, surprise, surprise. Delora, what'd you think of this flashback and treatment of the young Sanderson sisters?
Well, this flashback, I was very conflicted because one, I absolutely adore flashback. Like, it's my jam. I always want context. I love to see the origins of a story.
Mm-hmm.
What I will say is this. The young woman who plays young Winnie really did act her behind off, but it was a lot. It was very campy, very, very, very campy. And it unfortunately set the tone for the rest of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so And don't get me wrong, she literally was acting like Bette Miller from the first movie. So it's like she's talented, but I'm like, oh, so we're going there. Got it. You know?
Replica. Yeah.
What was a little confusing to me would be two things. One, were they unintentional witches? Like, were they just rebellious girls that, you know, like to kick up dust and then they're like, oh, here's some witchcraft? Or were they, you know, born witches? I think that was a bit unclear to me to an extent. And then the lore from the first movie was that the devil himself gave Winifred the book. So Mother Witch, who is she? I needed to know more about her because she was fabulous.
She was definitely fabulous.
I'm like, that's all we get? So these are my initial thoughts for the movie.
Two very great points. I didn't even think back to the lore of the first one, but maybe they're just going off the assumption of, well, because it's dark, like magic, then, you know, the devil could be tied into that in some way, shape, or form. So, but your first point in particular about the idea of were they born witches or, you know, and playing around with it before this interaction, that's a good question because the only indication that I could think possibly yes was them gifting Winifred a spider for her birthday. I was like, what type of normal 16-year-old wants a spider for their birthday? Right. So it made me think, oh, maybe they do dabble, but they just didn't dwell on it. And then let's talk about these townspeople. Let's talk about the Reverend who tries to banish a 16-year-old child and take her sisters, these parentless orphaned children, apparently.
Orphaned. They literally only have each other.
Separate them, kick a 16-year-old girl out of town because she don't want to marry some random dude. Like, that's what I couldn't get over. I was like, this is how y'all was trying to do them. Like, it definitely gives that the same way I feel about Cobra Kai and a lot of things over time, this redemption story to potentially villainous seeming characters.
Yeah.
To show that it's not like they were just born evil, they were made evil.
So funny that you say that because David actually said that recently. He was like, yeah, are they trying to have us forget that they're bad guys? And I was like, are they bad guys? Oh yeah, of course they're bad guys. They eat children. But you forget to an extent because I think again, maybe we were brainwashed like everyone else. You learn to love these characters because of the first movie.
Yeah, and there was humor in it and all of that. And just like our conversation of The Departed, check out that recap of Dolores' favorite film. It can be said that nobody is bad. They do bad things like you brought up, and people are a product of circumstances and environment and all these things. So I definitely think once you delve into people's stories, it starts to give you more of an understanding of how they came to be who they are. And so this diving back was like, well, here's the roots a little bit more than y'all ever thought y'all were going to know about the Sanderson sisters. So it was interesting from that perspective. In present day Salem, 'tis Halloween, of course, and festivities are underway. Besties Becca and Izzy are celebrating Becca's 16th birthday, which included magical ritual traditions. So to our point about whether the Sanderson sisters were dabbling, these two were clearly dabbling, right? Gilbert, the owner of the local magic shop, gifts Becca a candle he made for their annual ritual, free on the house. No questions asked. This weird looking, almost penis, phallic candle, whatever. Unfortunately,
think of it like that. I was too busy thinking about it. The way Izzy said, she was like, it looks like it's melted or something.
It was an ugly, ugly candle. Unfortunately, said candle was another black flame candle that once again resurrected the Sanderson sisters. Delora, what'd you think of this annual ritual that these girls do and this resurrection when we get our glimpse of the Sanderson sisters yet again?
I'm not necessarily a fan of the occult, even though this stuff fascinates me. I think because I was born and raised Christian, and you are taught to be mindful of the other side. But these stories are always so intriguing because it is part of the spiritual world in some ways, but seeing these young girls play with it and everything like that. I mean, I wasn't necessarily thrilled by it, but it was interesting that at least there was a level of intentionality to it, unlike the first movie where it was like solely an accident.
He was just arrogant in the first movie. Max was, in my
He
opinion,
was.
not believing what
He's a
anyone else had to
typical
say.
Teenage boy, though.
Indeed.
But Gilbert's character was interesting, and I'm sure we'll talk more about him. But to your point, it's like, you're just gonna give me this for my birthday? Thanks. I know I'm a loyal. It is a small town. We have to remember it is Salem.
Yeah, and they're regulars in this shop that he has, and he seems lovable enough when we first encounter him, and is telling the story of the Sanderson sisters and all that. So it seemed harmless, but to your point, I'm not, as much as I love supernatural and all of that, I do have a healthy respect for all of it, as in keep it the fuck away from me.
That part.
Because I think that it's too real to be playing around with. So unless you're Wiccan or in some way you are about that life, I don't dabble in any of those things.
When I tell you that I mute some of the Latin spells that they say sometimes,
you like, don't bring that energy in my house.
When I tell you, like, and I'm not even talking about just this movie, I'm talking about any, especially because David and I like to watch a scary movie every once in a while. If there is some chanting or something, that stuff is on mute. Like, I don't play like that. The same way when Lil Nas X called me by my name, that whole dancing for the devil, it's like, I understand what you're doing. I get the humor and everything, but what I'm not going to do is get devil Nikes. I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? Like,
we had a whole conversation about that when it went down. I think you said that Van on Higher Learning said it best of like, I don't play about the devil. Like, that's what I don't do. So again, to them, this could just seem like it was fun for bonding, or maybe they really did deeply believe in this at the time, but it's definitely not my ministry. And in terms of the resurrection, I will say this. Perhaps it's because they immediately broke out in song, but it seemed like I was watching the reunion of a former girl music group of like the 70s. Like,
this was another moment where I was like, so this is the tone we're setting.
I mean, immediately y'all break out into song.
Ashley, one of the lines, and I quote, the witches are back, stone cold meanies.
Granted, it is a children's film. So
Ashley,
maybe they're not supposed to be that intimidating.
Our 30 plus asses were going to be watching this show, and they still decided to go there.
Yeah, it definitely took the wind out of the sails of any fear very, very quickly.
That's why I'm like, oh, they're villains? We're getting a show. We're getting a two-step.
Yeah. It was fascinating. But to keep the sisters from stealing their souls to stay alive, because again, they are villains and they do want to survive this time past Halloween night. So Becca and Izzy convinced them that they are actually 40 years old and that they also steal the souls of children and that the sisters are their idols. Convince the sisters that you can now buy serums and lotions with children's souls in them instead of brewing potions, and they take them to freaking Walgreens. I have to say, I was impressed by Becca and Izzy's quick thinking, because that was brilliant to me.
It really was. I appreciate it. And I like to say, I have never seen the lights out at a Walgreens. I just wanted to put that up.
That was facts. That was facts. The only thing I was thinking in this scene, though, was like, is it Mary's gift that she can smell children? So.
And that was my question. When are we no longer a child? Is it 12, 13?
I think we talked about this with the first one because it seemed like, you also could have said this was somewhere off with the case of the main character, but, maybe 16 is that age that supposedly, or 15, 16 is that age you're supposedly now too mature for her gifts. But
there were a couple of funny parts in this scene that had me laughing. Sarah character, she was like, well, if all the potions are here, she was like, so no more luring children to their demise. And then
that was
Mary
my one gift.
Was like, what a time hack. There's no way she would say that, but that was funny.
Because how is she up on modern lingo, right? You've been dead, ma'am. You've been dead.
First of all, how are they even still here? Because they were supposed to have been gone away after the first movie.
Absolutely. I think it's just supposed to show, again, the power of magic, that there are loopholes, which we've seen in many projects in terms of there being somehow loopholes, but they were supposedly gone. So the plan worked to distract them, if only temporarily, and Winifred really needs Book back to brew her potion. This scene in general at the Walgreens was really, really funny. It brought me a lot of joy. And I'm starting to get really conflicted about all the lore of all the supernatural projects. Because I'm like, I thought salt was for vampires. Now it's for witches. Like, am I tripping?
No, I've seen salt used as a way of protection. And that was...
I'm getting confused between vampires, all of them.
That was with witches. I don't think I've ever seen it for werewolves, but definitely vampires and witches. I think that's a thing.
Yeah, I'm starting to get confused between all of our various supernatural lore and projects. I'm like, what is for what anymore?
And let's keep it real. Each story has its own lore. And honestly, that's what makes it so much fun. Oh, check out our recap of Day Shift, which was a summer vampire movie. But that lore was that pretty...
buck some things at the time. Mm-hmm.
That was fascinating, and the hierarchy and all that, and loners, or
different races, species of vampires. Yeah, that's very true. When Becca and Izzy confront Gilbert, he confesses to tricking them into lighting the black flame candle to free the Sanderson sisters. He also frees Book. Gilbert had seen the Sanderson sisters back in '93 as a child and is apparently their biggest fan. Book showed him how to make a new candle. So my question, Gilbert at his big age never second guessed this plan?
Listen, I was like, did they enchant him when he was young? Because nothing about what they showed us made me feel like, oh yeah, I get his motivation. Yep, got it. No.
Black man where is going down this path?
Listen, that part.
I respect and appreciate diversity on screen, but there are some things that I have a hard time following the trail to. Hard time. He would have definitely gotten way past this by this time, in my opinion, even if he had these thoughts as a kid, because he was struck by what was happening. I feel like he would have moved on, but just me.
Yeah, I'm with you.
The current mayor of Salem and father of Cassie, who is a friend of Becca and Izzy's, is a descendant of the Reverend that banished Winifred back in 1653. Winifred decides to do the Magica Maxima spell she promised not to do against Book's wishes, and ties Gilbert's life to finding their needed ingredients. So again, he didn't ever second guess this plan and how this would go once he brought them back to life, and the fact that they would try to suck the souls and life out of all the children of the town. Okay.
Again, unless he was just woefully uninformed, right? Fake news. Because I mean,
he made it seem like he's studied the history. He made it seem like he read the Reverend's diary or whatever. Like, and he was just like, oh, they're misunderstood. But you've met them now. Are they still misunderstood?
I got nothing, Ashley. I really don't. Because it makes no sense. It really doesn't.
How did the Sanderson sisters' performance of One Way or Another stack up to I Put a Spell on You from the original?
How dare you? How dare you ask me this question?
Okay.
First of all, what I will say is One Way or Another is better than The Witches Are Back. So I will say that. I actually like the dancing, and I like the intertwining of the spell with the song that everyone already knows. But again, it was too on the nose for me to love it as much as I Put a Spell on You. Because let's not forget, I can listen to that rendition in October just because, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And be like, oh, so good.
And it was also
bye.
It was also the circumstances for me, because when in the original they're singing I Put a Spell on You, folks don't know that they are literally putting a spell on them. They don't know who they are. They don't know anything about them. Whereas now the Sanders sisters are a thing. So it's like they're coming on for a Halloween costume competition of themselves and they lose, which is ridiculous.
Which is funny though.
But I love the inclusion of some of our RuPaul's Drag Race folks.
Drag queens. Mm-hmm.
So it was fun from that perspective, but the original is the original for a reason.
For a reason, Ashley. And again, it was also a pivotal point in the story. And I feel like this part was just a part that they decided to put in the story. You know what I mean?
As a callback.
But the girls weren't there. You know, the tension wasn't there, in my personal opinion, for it to have such a significant impact as I Put a Spell on You.
Now, that's a good point too, because with I Put a Spell on You, it was a distraction for all the grown-ups in town to not know what's going on with them trying to hunt down their children.
Gone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It was much more diabolical for sure.
Misunderstood. They wanted to live forever and they're willing to eat your children to do it.
Crazy. Was the mayor's house the same one Allison lived in from the original? Because I remember those stairs.
That's a great question. I don't know. I don't remember that garage.
I definitely don't remember the garage, but maybe we just didn't focus on that in 93. I'm like, this looks like the same house from remember Allison was throwing a party that night as well. So callbacks obvious in multiple ways.
I didn't
just
see
had
that
to ask.
gorgeous staircase either, so maybe not.
But that's what I saw. The stairs. That's the thing that made me think when they go in the front door, I see the staircase. I'm like, are those the same stairs? Is that the same house? That's the thing that triggered me. I was like, is that the same house? Because Allison walks down those stairs in the original. I was like, is that the same one? Somebody let me know. Because I didn't go back and rewatch it again to verify. I just threw it in my notes. So anyway, the Sanderson sisters kidnap Cassie as they need the blood of their enemy to complete their spell. Gilbert comes through with the other ingredients, including the head of Billy Butcherson, who was being so helpful, having still been awake since 93. I could have sworn we saw Billy go back to sleep in the original.
I really did too, actually. And the fact that she wasn't a lover of his, that they just only shared a kiss.
Think about that in real life, though. Think about that in real life, how people's perceptions of relationships can be so varied. And to your point, for him, dire consequences.
Seriously.
He's like, I didn't even like you. Ew. All I did was kiss you one time. I liked Sarah though. It's crazy. That's wild. That was the one scare that I had in this film, was when they swooped and grabbed Cassie. That I jumped. That did scare me. I jumped.
Yeah. I think that was the only one too. Yeah.
So kudos to y'all. One good scare. In the film finale, Winifred cast the Magica Maxima spell, but didn't bother to heed the warning that it take away what she loved most, her sisters. Proved to be too big a cost because even for Winifred, power meant nothing to her without her sisters. Becca, having gotten powers as a witch for her birthday, which we see peaks of throughout the film,
Yes.
helps Winifred, also with Book's help, by sending her, I guess we're saying, to her death to rejoin them. What message did you take from this finale and focus on the Sanderson sisters in the sequel?
Magic always has a cost.
Indeed. I said that as I was watching it. That is a key theme, I feel like, that runs across the gambit of witch projects.
Yes.
Magic always comes at a cost.
Especially, you remember Once Upon a Time, the series?
Yes, which I never finished because I heard that a lot of the cast was shifting towards the end. And I was like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see it.
It was a big deal. But that theme was throughout that entire series. And it is across, again, we consume these type of stories, movies, TV shows, books. It's always a theme because I believe some of this stuff can be real and to an extent. You know what I mean? Like, I do believe people can be witches and whatever they do comes with a cost, because honestly, it's all selfish at the end of the day. So
there's the idea of good witch and bad witch and things like that we've seen. But to your point, a lot of times it's extracting something, whether it's from nature, whether it's from whatever. So
derivative.
There's a cause and effect to that, right?
Yes.
You can't take something and not expect something else to be impacted by that. So
what they say, with every action is a reaction.
Equal and opposite reaction.
Yep. It's the balance. And again, with witchcraft or with magic, there's always this balance in nature or the universe or what have you. And so, yeah, it's a give and take for sure.
Do you feel like this redeemed the Sanderson sisters in any way from the villainous take on them? Did it humanize them in some way for you?
I think it's a distraction. Yes.
A distraction. Interesting.
But their motives were the same. She wanted all the power.
Right.
And they wanted to eat more children.
Besides sisterly love and bonding, they weren't any better for the world, right? We still didn't need them around. That's a fair point.
Still managed to curse the entire town in efforts to find the mayor, their quote unquote enemy, so they can get some of his blood. They didn't get his, but they got his offspring. Like, literally, let's put things in perspective. But it's so easy to get caught up in, oh my goodness, my sisters. And let's not forget, she treated her sisters awful. Like, it was bad. And sometimes I think we laugh at it because it's funny and they're goofy and they're silly. But to be fair, they're also in an entire different time period. So of course,
she was still a bully though.
She was absolutely a bully. But
I love the moment when Sarah and Mary got powers and suddenly Sarah stands up for herself. I was like, good for you, Sarah. She's good for you.
I am a good and loyal sister and I deserve to be treated as such. I was like, yes, find your power.
If only for a moment. I feel like that another message that I took from this film was obviously the importance and love of the women in your life, particularly friends or family, because not only did you have the trio, but then you had Becca, Izzy, and Cassie, and this new kind of coven type of environment that they were supposed to be now forming.
Well, the message with that is power should be shared, right?
Yes.
And so that was an important lesson too, because with Becca's character, she felt the burden, and the lesson was you don't have to shoulder this burden by yourself.
Absolutely. Before I get to your final thoughts, I have one more question. Did Gilbert get off too easily?
I have thoughts on Gilbert's character because he's a sneaky little bitch. You know what I mean? He comes off so innocent. He's like the worst type of person, right? Like
a wolf in sheep's clothing.
1000%.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he kept doing it. So obviously he did it with the girls. He had them light the candle. But the way he did Billy was rough.
Stole that head off that man's shoulders. After Billy was so nice and helpful. Then again, it was tied to his life. So one could say, well, I got to do what I got to do. But he definitely got off way too easy. It's not just a you go back to your shop. We gonna see y'all. We gonna see you tomorrow.
I'll buy more crystals on Thursday. No.
Somebody locked this man up.
Relationship is over.
Somebody locked this man up.
He was so manipulative.
My thing is, what else have you been in that magic shop doing all these years?
Listen.
Is this the end? Is this the
it
only
seemed like
thing you were
just
doing?
a fan, so it's not like he was able to do anything outside of making those candles or something. I don't know. And again, with this world, can anyone do a spell, or do you have to be a witch? Like I'm not sure.
At least he doesn't have Book anymore. He spent a long time with Book. So what else were you in Book getting into? The fact they had Book sweating, they had Book shed a tear.
I was just about to ask you, like, what are your thoughts about Book actually having all these emotions? I mean,
it was fascinating.
Emotional. Okay.
He was very alive.
For that, I was working overtime.
My only thing was, is there someone in there who is cursed and is living in that book? Is that a spirit or a person that needs to be released?
Again, the book is made out of human skin.
Yes. So is there a person's soul who is that going to be a Hocus Pocus 3 freeing Book from this life of servitude he's had as a spell book? Ooh. Disney, cut me my check. Cut me my check.
Ashley, I haven't talked about this series yet because it means so much to me and I'm completely obsessed with it. But shout out to anybody who's ever read the series A Court of Thorn and Roses. You know exactly what I'm talking about with the eye. That's all I say to that.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, back to the ending of Hocus Pocus 2. Give me your final thoughts as we wrap the recap.
Whew. I was going to be funny and say, this is what they get for only waiting 29 years instead of 30. Can you hear me? I love a good even number because that's the way my anxiety is set up. So I miss the original cast. I understand the Sanders sisters are the main event. However, I would have loved to see the kids grown up, living in the neighborhood.
Max, Danny, Allison, they definitely at least could have been pop-ups somewhere.
And even with Becca, I want to see who her parents are. Like, I just feel like there wasn't time for it. You can tell, but I enjoyed this conversation. You know what I mean? This is a great conversation. Oh, another funny part for me is when the mayor referred to the Sanderson sisters as the Gothic Golden Girls. That made me cackle. I was not expecting that.
Lest we forget, the Golden Girls, when that show started, were only in their 50s. Okay? The fact that people want to paint them with this brush of being so elderly, only one, Sophia, was old when the show started. Y'all need to quit this narrative about
and she wasn't even that much older than B. So
yep. She was young.
So here's the deal. I think the reason why I didn't get a lower grade for me is because Bette Miller, Sarah, and Kathy really did bring it though. Like, even though
still enjoy
they're caricatures of themselves, they are really good at what they do. And they made the most out of this movie. And I really do appreciate it. And again, the callbacks to the first movie, but having it in 2022 with the Swifter and the broom and the Roombas.
That was
everything.
That was a good one with the the vacuum cleaner being a savior for them. That was a good one.
Yeah. So what about you?
This was definitely a love letter to fans. And so to your point, I think the cast did their thing to the best of their ability with the material and really tried to put on a show for us. And I appreciate it. That's why we still recapped it. I appreciate it. Yes. I appreciate the effort. But again, some things need to just be left alone. So I don't know if I will revisit this during the Halloween seasons. Maybe I'll grow to appreciate it more over time, but my C plus stands. So
Ashley, we also going to talk about what other movies you like to watch during this time of the year.
that's a good question. I can't say that the way I do with Christmas, where I have annual movies I absolutely have to watch. I can't say I feel that way about Halloween. It's just kind of like I catch what I catch. Halloween Town was one that I really loved if we're talking about Disney originals that I used to watch all the time.
Yes.
But there's no, like, to me, major, I have to watch this every single year. Hocus Pocus, I've probably watched more than any other Halloween film when I think about it. What about for you?
So the ones that I watch every year, obviously Hocus Pocus, Twitches.
Yeah.
One and
Shout out to the Maori sisters.
Dracula, the one with Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder. And Sleepy Hollow.
Okay.
Depp.
I just rewatched that within the last few years because I couldn't remember it like that. Like I remember some of the lore, but I couldn't remember the film like that.
I love it. It's moody. It's a little scary, not too much. It has a good lore. Headless horseman.
Yep. Yeah, I watch all of that ish throughout the entire year. So like there's you know what I mean? So it's like Halloween, I don't just have to watch it in October like I do with December with Christmas music and movies. It's just a vibe throughout the whole entirety of the year for me. So besides Ghosts and Demons, y'all know I'll mess with Ghosts and Demon projects. So all right, Delora, thank you so much for the recap of Hocus Pocus 2. We will move in to hidden gems for the week. What you got, girl?
I come bearing gifts this week. I have 3 hidden gems. Since this is our spooky season episode, I think you all will appreciate what I have to offer. Okay, first, brand new series available on AMC. Interview with the Vampire.
I've been waiting on you to watch this show. Waiting for you to watch this show, rather.
It is so good. It's a retelling. As we all know, it's based off of Anne Rice's novel.
I haven't seen it yet, but I'm glad. I want to hear your take.
And let's not forget about the 1994 movie. Again, iconic because you had Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt in lead roles. So this one is pretty cool because it's a retelling. We have people of color and we are in New Orleans. And again, you don't get it. I hate that you didn't get a chance to experience New Orleans the way I have been. We have to go again.
Yeah.
When it's not busy. But if you remember Grey Worm from GOT, he is starring as the lead, Louis.
I'm glad he has his man parts in this.
It's very modern because, again, we have this man who's biracial. So they talk about elements of that in the very beginning, him being in New Orleans, being a businessman and coming across this mysterious Frenchman who we all know is Lestat. It's a very interesting and well done retelling, and it's sexy. They tap into their relationship in a deeper way, in a realistic way. Let's keep it 1000 because, you know, vampires are very sexy and they try to get it in no matter what. To let you know how good the show is, critics have given the show 99%. Okay?
Sounds like it may be a recap.
72% by audience, but there's only about 4 episodes out right now, but it's well done. It's well done, and it's definitely worth mentioning during spooky season. Okay, my second hidden gem is not so much spooky, but it just came out. It is the Hot Ones interview with the Viola Davis. When I tell you I love this so much, one, I would never imagine in a million years Academy Award winner, Emmy Award winner, Tony Award winner, going on hot ones, eating hot wings, doing a freaking interview. Like, but she is Viola, so it does make sense. But I just love that someone of her caliber is on this YouTube show. And because she's a woman of such prestige, esteem, what have you, she is funny and she brings wisdom to this interview. And it is so, so good. One of my favorite lines, though, she asks the interviewer, she's like, so nobody whooped your ass after all these children.
Maya Rudolph almost did in Luke. Check out that recap.
But then she brought in wisdom. If you're an aspiring actor, she tells you the best acting exercises. She talked about, like, you know, living this life and choosing yourself. Like, it was a joy. It was a joy to watch. It was highly anticipated, and it was definitely worth a watch. So you should check that out. Hot Ones on YouTube. Can't miss it. My final hidden gem. So I came across this novel because, you know, I've been on this train since June, and I started talking books with this young man. Shout out Chris. We met at David's going away party, and he worked with David. And I was telling him all the books I was reading. Like, we loved Red, White, and Royal Blue. We loved, you know, all the books that I've mentioned previously. And he was like, you should look at this novel called The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. It's by V.E. Schwab. Came out in 2000. This book is about a young French woman in 1714 who makes a deal with the devil that makes her immortal, but she's cursed to be forgotten by everyone she meets. It is mysterious. It's historical. There is romance, and there are twists. It's a big book. It's very moody, perfect for this season. And like I was telling Ashley in the last episode, my young self loves a dramatic ending that's not necessarily wrapped in a bow. Now, don't get me wrong, I've been in a happily ever after mood, right? But I also have an appreciation for a book that ends in an interesting way. And that's all I'll say. But it's like, how can you have a happy ending when your soul is on the line kind of deal?
Sound like you doomed to hell to me, but
it's like how it ends is very intriguing, right? Because we're already left literally with a damn soul, essentially, right?
Yeah. Tough to come back, except unless you're Constantine. So
that part, and I love that movie, by the way. That's
finally getting a sequel. They better not shit the bed.
They better not. So I was just really blown away. Like, when you read a good book and it's like, and you're done, you kind of have like this sigh. And I felt like I got that with this book. I was like, oh, wow, that was something. So for good books, it's a 4.2 out of 5. Google users gave it 93%, just to give you some idea. So there you go, spooky season. You're welcome. Ashley, what are your hidden gems?
All right. Thank you. I have 2 this week. The first one I actually meant to mention in our last recap and totally forgot, but it's The Redeem Team on Netflix. It's a documentary on the U.S. men's basketball team seeking redemption at the 2008 Beijing Olympics. I learned some things, particularly I didn't realize that only college basketball players represented the U.S. in the Olympics before the 92 Dream Team. Like,
that's why there's Dream Team.
Just facts in there that I didn't realize. And I enjoyed obviously seeing superstars like LeBron and RIP Kobe and D Wade, and just hearing from them directly and getting documentary footage from that era and that time. And, you know, I love basketball. It's my favorite sport. So just getting some of these gems, some of this history, and, you know, we love a comeback story. So this was definitely that. So that's The Redeem Team on Netflix. My second hidden gem is one that I don't know where I had been, because this is definitely something I should have watched a while back, but it's Pennyworth on HBO Max. Story of Alfred Pennyworth, made famous as Batman's butler, Avi, and his story. And there's 3 seasons currently on HBO Max. I started it on a Sunday, and as of, I think, Monday or Tuesday, I was already on season 2. It made me forget to watch House of the Dragon. That's how much I got into. I watched this on my phone in the shower. Like, that's how much I was getting into this series. It caught me on a good day, or it's just that damn good. I couldn't tell you, but I never expected such a rich backstory for Alfred. So I think that's another thing that fascinates me about it. You know, you see Alfred, you love Alfred, but he's who he is in the DC Batman universe.
This is a DC project then.
This is a DC project, but it's completely set in the world when Alfred is younger and he was in service in the military, and he gets out and then he goes into private security, and it's just a lot going on with him and who surrounds him. And then you have Thomas Wayne, Bruce's daddy, who's a character in this as well. So I really enjoy it so far. I know I'm gonna wrap this series very quickly and be done with it. So I hope they're gonna do a season 4, but 3 seasons out currently on HBO Max. That is Pennyworth. And those are my 2 hidden gems for this week, guys. Happy Halloween. I know we're gonna be back with another episode before it's all said and done, but if y'all are going out and enjoying and celebrating some this week, live your best life, do it safely, but have a good time, because this is one of my favorite holidays. So
yes, be safe, be safe, be safe. Have fun.
All right, guys, we will be back with headlines and hot topics, but until then, see ya.
Bye.